This video contains spoilers up to Nahida's second story quest in 3.6. Proceed at your own peril. Since the discovery of Before Sun and Moon, the forbidden book in Enkanomiya, one of the biggest mysteries dividing the theory-crafting community is the identity of the current ruler of the heavens. Is it the primordial one, the original creator of the human race, or is it the second who came, who may have defeated the first throne and taken its place? Up until version 3.6, Before Sun and Moon was the only account we had of events dating further back in time than the gods themselves. We know this book contains a secret that Celestia wants to protect at all costs. Exactly which part of its contents contains said secret, we could so far only speculate. According to this book, when the Primordial One arrived, it fought and won against the Dragon Lords of the Old World, created the heavens, earth, and the human race, leading to a prosperous time in which a unified human civilization thrived, and the heavens would provide for them whenever needed. Then, with the arrival of the second who came, war was ignited again in Teyvat, bringing the world to the verge of collapse. Enkanomiya sank to its current location during this conflict, and the winner of this war has never been confirmed. When the people of Enkanomiya themselves realized they could not return to the surface, they believed this was a ban laid down by no other than the Primordial One itself, and assumed it had therefore defeated the second who came. Players who believe otherwise will point towards the fact that in later times, Celestia never again seemed to care about humans the way the book suggests it once did. But those who believe the ruler of the heavens is still the first throne may instead point out that the Primordial One may simply have changed. The Amethyst Crown from the Flower of Paradise Lost artifact set reads as follows.
But the Master of the Heavens, consumed by fear for the rising tide of delusion and breakthroughs, sent down the divine nails to mend the land, laying waste to the mortal realm.
Our exchange with Apep, the Dendro Dragon, is the first conversation we have with a primordial witness, someone who has been in Teyvat since the very beginnings of traceable history. At first glance, it seems natural to interpret Apep's words as equating the identity of the heavenly principles with the primordial one. This may be our first impression when we focus on what was said. I believe, however, the real insight comes when we focus not only on the words that were spoken, but even more carefully on what was omitted, either for lack of knowledge, forced oblivion, or maybe fear of retribution. Let us first compare the text of Before Sun and Moon with Apep's narrative, as well as Nahida's recount of events, on every point that they seem to fit and confirm each other. First, the dragons ruled the land before the Primordial One arrived, and the Primordial One took over the world after winning the war against the dragon sovereigns.
When the eternal throne of the heavens came, the world was made anew. Then the true Lord, the Primordial One, came forth and did battle against the 7 terrifying sovereigns, dragon lords of the old world.
The history of dragons starts from the very beginning of Teyvat. Apep has always seen itself as the master of Sumeru, and has refused to recognize the new order that was established.
Although my hatred for that usurper from beyond the heavens still stirs deep within me, the Dragon King led us in a fight against the order established by the outsiders. An unimaginable war took place in Teyvat, causing destruction on an unprecedented scale. In war, the victor would inherit the right to shape the world, while the losers must turn into ash.
Second, the Primordial One loves, or at least loved, humans.
The Primordial One had a sacred plan for humans. As long as they were happy, it too rejoiced.
How far will a life so dear and precious to the heavenly principles be able to go? I wonder.
Third, about the second who came.
The funerary year. The second throne of the heavens came, and war was rekindled, as it was in the world's creation. That day, the heavens collapsed, and the earth was rent asunder. Our ancestors and their ancestral land fell into this place during that conflict.
This is where things get interesting. Apep seems to speak of the period between the beginning of the First War for Teyvat until the celestial nail falling on Sumeru as only one and the same catastrophic event. Not even a mention of a second catastrophic war, or a second usurper from beyond the heavens. The next historic event it mentions is the Apocalypse, that is, the contamination through forbidden knowledge at the end of King Deshret's era, much later in the timeline. Keep in mind the book from Enkanomiya was completely banned by Celestia. When Orobashi, the great serpent god of Enkanomiya, read it, Celestia sentenced it to essentially commit suicide. Something in this book is not meant to be known by anyone, ever. Until now, many of us believe that the secret that Celestia does not want known pertains to the fact that the Primordial One, and therefore Celestia, are not originally from this world, as these are indeed the lines of inquiry that both Khaenri'ah and the Abyss Order have pursued this book for.
That's why I wanted to find this book. That way we, the Abyss Order, would have proof. Proof that the gods and Celestia came from beyond this world. The only thing I do know at the moment is that the Great Serpent was sentenced to death by Celestia for accidentally reading this book.
Yet Apep speaks freely about the origins of Teyvat. If this was the secret Celestia so desperately protects, it would probably not have left any dragons roaming freely, no matter whether they pose a threat otherwise anymore or not. Whatever Apep can tell us is probably not the forbidden secret. But when it comes to the second who came, it really seems like Apep doesn't know or cannot say anything about it. And this omission is what, ultimately, reveals the real secret for us. Not the outlander origin of Celestia, but rather the very existence of a second throne, an impostor of the heavenly principles. How come Apep apparently doesn't know about this? It might be a combination of the world history being rewritten through Irminsul, memories being lost with the cleansing of forbidden knowledge, or the dragons simply not knowing what really happened during the Second War. The book author gets his knowledge ultimately from Istaroth, the god of wind and time, who is also one of the four shades. And the phrasing in the book seems to suggest it may have been a war as short as it was destructive.
That day, the heavens collapsed, and the earth was rent asunder.
Another hint that has been right under our noses this whole time may be found in the form of the celestial pillars themselves. We now know for sure that these nails are not simply weapons of destruction. They do cause massive damage and change to the surrounding area, but they are also capable of fixing the wounds of Teyvat.
I'm referring to what was used to fight against the Abyss. It once repaired the rifts of Teyvat long ago. It has the ability to purify and stabilize powers that shouldn't exist in Teyvat.
Looking at a celestial nail, does it really give the impression of a construction that was purposefully designed for the use they were given? The design is without a doubt in the same style as the Heaven's Gate, which we see as the starting screen of the game, and during the encounter of the twins with the unknown god. But the pillars look like exactly that. Broken pillars. The Primordial One clearly had the power to protect Teyvat from outside harmful influences and substances. It rebuilt the world after its victory against the Dragon Sovereigns, and made it safe for humans to live in. It probably built the Heaven's Gate and shielded Teyvat from the void and elemental realms, as they are all incompatible with each other. Why then, I ask, why would the Primordial One need to break off pillars from its own making in order to repair parts of Teyvat that are collapsing? Why would it not instead use its power directly, as it did before after the First War, or create something more appropriate for the task? Something, say, less destructive to the world it created and the humans it is so fond of? The answer is simple. It would not. It was defeated by the second who came, who, as powerful as it may be, does not possess the protective, realm-shielding power that the Primordial One wielded. Instead, to mend the broken seams of the world that it had violently overtaken, it had to use primordial pillars, which are still imbued with the Primordial One's power, and use them like one would use a glowing red-hot piece of metal to seal a flesh wound, disregarding the damage to the surrounding tissue. One final observation before we wrap this up. I believe the Primordial One is associated with the color blue. When we look inside the celestial pillars, we see what looks like blue crystal, and when humans, characters or human enemies, die, they dissolve in blue particles as the primordial energy linked to their creator dissipates. The current heavenly principles, in contrast, are strongly related to the color red. The cape of the Sustainer is red, its powers ranging from black to flaming red and yellow, and crimson fiery red was the sky during the Khaenri'ah disaster, when the heavenly principles were rampant. How deep does the heavenly impostor's deception reach? How far did the second throne go to protect its secret? How much do the Archons know, if anything?
But I've seen a nation stride forward and lose everything to the heavenly principles.
Unraveling these questions may well be the final goal of our journey. If you've made it this far, thank you kindly for watching. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Happy lore hunting!
Stay tuned for more.